If you've been frustrated because you're a potential first-time home buyer and you're trying to find a great down payment assistance program and or grant that will work for you, but you haven't been able to find one, it's a frustrating situation. So this video, we're going to try to put together some good information for you. I'm going to give you a broad overview of down payment assistance programs and grants and why sometimes they're good for you, why sometimes you can't fit into them because they have so many restrictions. And at the end, we're going to give you at least two options, national options. These aren't local options that could fit for you. One's going to be a grant and one's going to be a very low down payment assistance. But stick all the way through. You're going to learn a lot. And like I always say, let's kick off this rodeo right now. Hi folks, I'm Kevin Fagan. I'm the Mortgage Patriot on your side, nestled in the hill country right above San Antonio, Texas, serving proud Texans and great patriots all over this country. In this video, we're going to talk about first-time home buyer programs and grants because it's 2024 and the start of the new year always kicks off with the administrators of these programs revamping or creating new programs for you. So in the course of this video, I'm going to do a couple things. We're going to start off with a quick overview of kind of what the whole landscape looks like in terms of where do these grants come from and so forth. Secondly, we're going to talk about the restrictions that are typical of virtually every down payment assistance program, because there's plenty of them. And then I'm going to tell you, even if you're lucky enough to get the down payment assistance program, what are two of the adverse effects of getting those down payment assistance programs? In other words, what do they sneak in there that makes it maybe not quite so attractive as you might have thought? And then lastly, I'm going to show you two different current programs in 2024 that I feel like are the best ones that go around the prior restrictions and the prior adverse conditions I'm talking about. In other words, they don't fall into those prior categories of bad things happening. And then we'll close it out with an example. So once again, let's kick off that information right now. As I begin the presentation of all this information, please like and subscribe below if you would. That really helps me and it helps you because it allows my YouTube videos to get shown better. And I've got a great library now built up over the past year and a good audience, so I thank you for that, looking at my videos. So this helps me quite a bit if you like and subscribe. Also, text or call or contact me by email. I always respond. It's always kind of funny when somebody calls me and I actually answer the phone and they're a little surprised, but I will answer the phone or I'll tell you when I can call you right back. Let's get into that information once again right now. So with respect to down payment assistance programs and grants, there's lots of confusion because they come from all different sources. There are national programs, there are state programs, there are county programs, there are city programs, and finally there's lender-specific programs. So you literally have thousands and thousands of possibilities. No loan officer like myself could know even but a handful of them. The best thing to do is to tell me what area you're in, or tell me where you reside, what your current address is, and I can find out ultimately what is best for you. Think about that as we walk through all the rest of this material. If you tell me exactly where you live, what your goals are, then I can find out what the best program is going to be for you. So let's get into those restrictions right now. Let's talk about these restrictions that I mentioned earlier. Well, I'm going to list them off and then we'll come back to each one of them. You have income thresholds. You have debt to income restrictions. You have credit score minimums. You have location duration. And you have lastly, what I'll call grant exhaustion. So let's take the very first one, income thresholds. There's income limits on all these down payment assistance programs for the most part. If you make too much money, you can't get the down payment assistance. That's that simple. Most of the down payment assistance programs are based on AMI, area median income. You're allowed 80% typically of area median income for most programs. If you exceed that, sorry, no can do the program, right? Secondly, you have the debt to income restrictions. What does that mean? If you make, for example, $6,000 a month, you're only allowed some percentage of $6,000, usually 45 to 50%. If you exceed that level of debt to income, you, again, cannot qualify for a down payment assistance program. So they all vary, but typically they're start about 45 to about 50% debt to income limitations. You also have, like I said, credit score minimums. Usually I can find some that are 600 to 620, but most of the time you're going to find you're going to need at least a 640 score. So a 640 score or better. If you're below that, I can help you raise your score. There's a couple of easy tricks. Okay. And we talked about what I said, location duration. What does that mean? It means a lot of these county programs and city programs, for example, you have to be living in that county or city for at least 6 months. So if you're moving out of town into a new spot, you can't get that down payment assistance program for at least 6 months because you haven't lived in that location. So that's kind of crummy. And then lastly, you have what I call grant exhaustion, meaning on the grant programs, yes, great, the grants are available usually at the beginning of the year and they roll out, but that money is only a set amount of money. Usually by the middle of the year to the end of the year, the grants are gone. All these have little restrictions, hurdles, roadblocks for you. And let's talk about two of the adverse conditions if you do get a down payment assistance program or grant. So two adverse areas that you definitely want to understand if you're looking at a down payment assistance program and or grant is that, number one, they sometimes do not give you fair market rates. Let's assume that the prevailing rate today for an FHA is 6.5% or a conventional loan is 7%. That's about where we are now. 6.5% for FHA, 7% for conventional, assuming 700 score, for example. A down payment assistance program, if it's an FHA, might give you 7.25%. So 3/4 above 6.5%. In other words, they're raising the rate on you. Same thing with conventional. If it's a 7, they might give you a 7.5% to 7 to 3/4. What are you really gaining there? You got to be careful of that, and you're not allowed to buy down the rate. In other words, on a fair market rate, if it's at 6.5, if you want to get seller concessions to buy the rate down, you can do that. You can get 6, maybe you can get 5.75. You're not allowed that option with the down payment assistance program for many of them. So that's number one. Number two is they put a second lien on your property. So you have a first lien for the actual financing of the home. You have a second lien, which usually incorporates the down payment. So for example, if they're covering all your down payment, let's say it's a $300,000 house, 3.5% down payment FHA, that's $10,500. Okay, $10,500 is what they're covering on their down payment assistance. They add $10,500 as a second lien to your home. Now, sometimes you pay on that second lien. Sometimes you do not pay on the second lien. It's called a silent second. But either way, that lien remains. And most often, if you try to sell your house within the first 3 years or 5 years or 10 years, whatever the stipulations are, you have to repay that second lien. That's not cool. So for example, there's a great program in Florida, or at least people think it's great. It's called the Hometown Heroes. Great program. Maybe 5% of your purchase price can be covered with the down payment assistance. Well, great. Let's say you're buying a $300,000 home. 5% of that is $15,000. They're going to take $15,000 and they're going to put that as a second lien. You're not paying on the second lien. It's 0% interest. But guess what? It never goes away. If you refinance, you have to pay off that second lien. If you sell your property, you have to pay off that second lien. So are they really giving you help or not? I don't know. Maybe in some cases it makes sense for you, but I think there's better options. So I'm going to go into two of those great options right now. So the first of these great programs or grants, I'm going to refer to as the SPCP Grant. What does it do? It can allow for first-time home buyers to get up to $6,000 of closing cost coverage. And it's going to combine that with a 3%, not a 3.5% or a 5%, a 3% conventional loan. So all the borrower and buyer needs is a 620 credit score, and you have to live in a certain current address. So look at this QR code I've shown on the screen here. I'll also have one in the description. But hover over that now and fill it in all the way, please. Tell me exactly what your full address is, and of course, give your name, your number, and your email. I will let you know if you're eligible for this grant. As an example, if you're buying about a $250,000 home and you're eligible for this grant, and you even get, let's say, $5,000 of seller concession combined with this, you could probably be writing a cash to close check on a $250,000 home for about $5,000. So in other words, combining the grant and seller concessions, buying a $250,000 home, you're going to be writing a check for only about $5,000. That's a heck of a deal. Option number two is if you can't fit into this grant, I would try this one first. I would look at this 1% down. I have a 1% down conventional loan product. Now this one is income restricted. So how does a borrower become eligible for this? 80% of AMI, area median income. If you have below 80% of the area median income where you live currently or the property is located, you'll be eligible for this 1% down conventional loan. Neither of these programs, the SPC loan or the 1% down conventional loan, create higher interest rates. They give you prevailing rates, and they allow you to buy down the rate if you need to or want to. Also, neither of these programs attach a second lien, like I talked about earlier. There's no adverse second lien, be it silent or otherwise, that you have to pay off or pay down or pay monthly on. Both those programs are fantastic. Remember, it's where you live on the SPCP grant. Send me a comment, fill out the form, call me, text me, but let me know basically what your circumstances are and where you currently live. And I'll just tell you what the best deal is going to be for you in this country. So I hope all this was great and informative for you. Kevin Fagan, Mortgage Patriot, on your side. Let's make it a great one.